Joining me now, Meredith Annex from Bloomberg's NEF. Here at Flame, obviously talking about, well, today we're talking about heating and cooling and the gas industry. That is your field.
It is, yes. So I'm leading Bloomberg NEF's research on the long-term trends within heating and cooling, understanding how decarbonization policies and trends within the markets, from retail prices to CapEx cost of systems, are going to affect where we're getting our heat and cool from.
Okay, well, let's start with heating. What sort of part is gas playing at the moment, and how do you see it going forward?
At the moment, gas is instrumental for the heating systems, especially in Europe. It's the largest source of heating supply that we have. About 44% of the European market is heated by natural gas, and that's including industry, so it's an even higher percentage when you're looking at residential homes like where you and I live.
So that's at the moment, but what about the future?
Well, this is the open question. Right now we know that in order to hit decarbonization targets, every country is going to have to look at how it's heating its homes and how it's creating things within industrial processes. It's going to have to change.
So when you look at individual countries, I know for a start the UK is looking at gas boilers, and there are other countries as well. Talk me through what policies are in place.
Absolutely. Well, if we're starting at the very highest level of the European Commission, we're expecting to see more coordinated policies in the future. There's an ongoing lobbying effort to try and undertake that. At the moment, though, the current regulations are providing mixed messages. So some are pushing you towards more efficient gas boilers, and others are pushing you off of gas and onto heat pumps. Now, when you go onto country levels, there's a couple of countries that really are taking the lead. So the Netherlands has announced a ban on new home connections to the gas grid, and the aims of phasing out gas entirely from homes by 2040. In the UK, we're seeing a similar policy. New homes will not be allowed to connect to the gas grid by 2025. And with the recent net zero report that was released earlier this month, we're seeing a plan for the absolute phase out of natural gas, either converting to electrification or to a hydrogen network.
I mean, does that mean then, as far as heating goes for the gas industry, they can almost see the end of the line? I mean, is there anything that they can do to say, well, actually, now hang on, we can decarbonise, we can get cleaner and actually still play a part? What do you think?
It's going to be challenging, if I'm honest. There is stuff that you can do. You can have the gas grid be repurposed, if you will, for biogas or for hydrogen. But there are limitations to the amount of biogas that you can produce. And at the moment, hydrogen costs are quite expensive. So you're taking a gamble on those costs being able to come down enough to compete with electrification technologies, which are currently improving and are currently being innovated. So the gas industry really needs to move fast if it's going to want to take that role. Otherwise, there is a potential that there could be an additional role for gas in the power grid. So if you do electrify with heat pumps, you will see an increased load in the power networks, and that could be an opportunity for gas.
You mentioned the UK, the Netherlands, but what about some of the big markets like the States, for example?
Yes, the States is a very interesting one. So we've seen some recent gas moratoriums in the United States. Westchester County, which is up in New York City area, suburb of New York City, is no longer allowed to connect to the gas grid. And there's been discussions of gas bans as well in California, in Denver, Colorado, and a few other locations. A lot of it, though, is state and local level rather than national level.
And they are quite small areas. I mean, do you see that as getting bigger? I mean, what's your research telling you, or your predictions?
I think it's going to stay as a kind of local decision for now, given the current policy trajectory in the US. And while these are small areas, they're very large population centers. If you had the natural gas grid that serves California lose San Diego, San Francisco, Los Angeles, you're going to have to look at how many homes would be remaining on the gas grid after that. And those individual homes are now going to be bearing the brunt of maintenance costs and OPEX that are going on in the gas grid. So it could become harder.
We talked a lot about heating, but obviously on the flip side of that is cooling. And when you look at some of the ways that cooling is used, particularly in some countries where it is used at night, when obviously you don't have the solar energy, I mean, is there a role for the industry there?
Yes, I think it's quite interesting, although it also can make some difficulties around the arguments for seasonal storage.
Yeah.
So natural gas right now is being touted as this opportunity to provide peak electric load in winter. But if you electrify summer demand as well through the increased use of air conditioning units and fans and other smaller air conditioning systems, you could end up seeing a simultaneous rise in summer peaks on the power grid as well as winter peaks, which means that you can have more baseload power which can be provided by anything that produces over the course of the year. You don't have to oversize the grid nearly as much.
Which is a very different type of graph than what we're normally used to seeing.
Exactly. You start to look a lot more similar to the southern United States, or where the southern United States is heading. So the US in the south, you've got milder weather, so heat pumps are more effective, and you've got a need for winter heating and summer cooling. So this means that over time, we're expecting to see an evening out of the peaks within the southern US grid.
What's your message to the gas industry, really? Because the picture you are painting is really one where there could be opportunities, but actually, especially when we look at heating, it's like, it's coming to the end of the line.
It is very intense right now. Well, these decisions are a far ways out. For instance, the UK is likely to choose between electrification and hydrogen sometime in the 2020s. So we're not talking about tomorrow, we're not talking about the day after, but we are talking about 2030. And the gas industry does need to realize that if you're going to be building a new gas plant or are betting on a new gas plant coming online, that's going to come in 2022 if you started building it today. And that is going to hit 2030 during its 10-year operational lifetime, which is the minimum that you would want. So these are going to start to affect real decisions today, and the gas industry needs to realize that.
Okay, Meredith, it's a very interesting time to be looking at this. Thank you very much for talking to us. Thank you.
Thank you.